Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. I am absolutely loving your feedback. In case you're just joining us, welcome to the conversation. Jane Wamboy is my name. Hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. I can see Torres saying such a powerful conversation this morning. We need more of this as the youth. Shapiro saying loving the show. I also have Michael Kinyanjui saying thank you ladies. You are all doing such a great job. Big shout out going out to Jack D. Jr., Ramsey. I also see who is this? Mosede, who's also tuned in. Dan Erot, Charles Kafu. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Naona Dixon, Leyan, as well as Yoruku. Keep talking to us. Remember, check in with where you are watching us from using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Continuing with this conversation all about a strategy for the year and mentorship for the youth. So far, we've touched on a few aspects that go into strategy, and we just want to conclude with that particular part of this conversation before we get to move on. And in studio, we have with us David Njeru, a man who wears many hats, but for the purposes of this conversation, he is an author as well as a leadership and purpose trainer. Now, just before we get to move on to the different aspects, as we conclude on issues to do with strategy, one aspect that I'd love for you to address, and especially looking at the youth, is understanding yourself as an individual, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and how you can work with them as part of your strategy.
Well, thank you so much, Jane. One of the greatest things that we should always appreciate is that the youth have untapped potential.
Absolutely.
They have a lot of energy. And one of the greatest things that we can do is to tap the potential and direct that potential into something wonderful, something great. Now, I normally do a program, a training called a School of Excellence. And this School of Excellence is actually to train people, not only the youth, how to know their purpose. Somebody from US called me the other day and told me, David, I'm going back to school. I asked, why are you going back to school? He told me, I'm going back to school at 58 so that I can be able to teach at a university. Then I said, wow, 58, you didn't know what you wanted to do in life. Then I say that is something, that's a bad example of how not to follow. And we have a lot of people who are also at 80, at 70, at 40, at 30, at 20, and they don't actually know what to do in life. Now, for us to know our purpose, we have to develop something or answer the question, who am I? And that is a question of purpose. Who are you? Please don't answer, because 99.9% of the people who we normally ask this question in our training, they fail. They normally say who they are, their names, and that is not who they are. But basically, that can give us a clue of who they are. Now, you are the original intent when you were being created. You need to find that niche, and for you to know who you are, you have to go back and ask, why was I created? Who am I? You need to know that you are unique, you are different, you are one of a kind. Even the very, very identical twins, they have their fingerprints. They are not identical, they're different. So that is why you are different. So first of all, you need to know who you are. Then secondly, you need to know what were you created to do here in this world. You are not created to do everything. In fact, you need to be known by something. Now, if you go to the mechanics, you'll not find me there. If you go to the long distance runners, you'll not find me there. But if you come to inspiration, you'll find me there. Why? Because I know my what. And then the other question we answered is the why. Why were you created? You were created to leave a lasting mark, a positive lasting mark. The other question that we answer in the School of Excellence is when are you to operate? When are you to make that mark that you have always wanted to make? And that particular question, the answer is now. You need to start now. Don't procrastinate. Procrastination is actually a very destructive word because it always pushes you ahead, thinking that you have more time, and you find that everything has gone. And then lastly, the fifth question is how? How do I go that? It is the mission. Now, I've already said also in this book, if you have nothing to die for, you have no reason of living. If you have no reason to die for, you have no reason of living. So that puts us on purpose, because when you know your purpose, you'll pursue it and get the best version. We are saying again, you don't need to be the best. No. Because when you be the best, that means you are actually competing with other people. But we are saying you need to be the best version of yourself.
Okay. Now, that brings me to this aspect, because so many people struggle with understanding even what purpose is. I mean, I have a job, that is a purpose to me. People will take that casually, like, you know, what is purpose? What is it supposed to do? What is it supposed to be? Where am I supposed to get this purpose? And you find that so many people are confused in that aspect of trying to find purpose, and there comes in the role of mentorship. And again, how would you describe mentorship? Is it just talking to someone who you think is good for you, or what really defines mentorship from your standing?
You first of all mentioned about work.
Yeah.
Actually, work is one of the greatest prisons in life. Why? Because we'll be working, actually be fulfilling somebody else's vision. But I normally say that the best way to work is put a limit. Say that I'm working for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and then after that, seek your passion.
That goes to planning.
That's right.
Goes back to planning.
Then now seek your passion, because there's some people, I've done a lot of counseling to people who have been working for 40 years, but they have nothing to show. Another one called me about a few days ago. She is about to retire, and then she's asking me, I can't see anything that I've done for all those over 50 years. Then now she's actually almost starting from zero. Now, mentorship is not really telling somebody what to do. It is actually working with them. Mentorship, let me give an illustration of Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus, he called his disciples. And the first reason is so that they can be with him. So, and as they were with him, they were actually observing what he was doing. He was also, they were also learning as he was teaching them. So number one, to be with them. Number two, to observe. Then number three, to be taught of them. Now, mentorship is actually working with someone. Let me give another illustration. There is this gentleman called Dennis. He's in the class right now. He's in one of the universities here. And when I met him, they were at loggerheads with the mom. Why? Because there is a particular course the mom wanted him to do, and he was forced into that. And after second year, he was like, I can't go on with this. I need to do my passion. When he was introduced to me, his hair was shaggy, and I said, well, you have very good hair. This is wonderful, but it can be a little bit rearranged a little bit for your presentation. And he took it very positively. Yes. I worked with him, and then he discovered what he was meant to do. Right now, he is doing international relations. And he is fulfilled, and he's very passionate about that.
I love that you rearrange your hair. That goes back to communication skills, you know, things we take very lightly, but they have such impact.
That's
now,
right.
Another aspect of mentorship that I find so many young people struggling with is finding balance. Many people get lost with doing what their idols do. They literally copy everything to the latter, hoping to be as successful or as meaningful as the person was, forgetting that that is that person's journey. Finding balance, in as much as you have a mentor you look up to, you listen to, who guides you, understanding that you are also an individual. Balancing the two.
Balance is something very powerful. And as I explained a little bit earlier, number one, you need to know who you are. When you know who you are, you will work unto that brand. Because I normally say brands are sought after. Commodities are sold. You don't need to be a commodity. Like if you go to a supermarket, you know exactly what you want, and you're going to pick that. Now, in life, you need to focus onto something. If I need to take a passport photo
Yes.
of Jane, I don't need to go at that very far and so I can be able to pick a passport size. No, I just zoom into the passport. If I need to take the full portrait, I just probably zoom again into the same. Now, to strike a balance in life,
Yes.
you need to know your strengths. You need to know your weaknesses. Actually, we normally call that as a SWOT analysis. SWOT is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yes.
So you look at that, and then you look at what am I good at? What do I improve on? And with that, there's also something we call a web of life. A web of life. A web of life is a circle whereby you put it into different segments, and maybe you can say, this is my career, this is my spiritual goal, and this is my educational goal. So when you put 1 to 10, from a scale of 1 to 10, it needs to be almost circle. Now, when it is a triangle, you have missed it. When it is a rectangle, you have missed it. So it has to be a balance in everything that you do so that the wheel can keep on moving on. Now, imagine a cyclist cycling a bicycle which has a rectangular wheel. He cannot move. So we need to balance so that our wheel of life is circular, so that it can keep on moving, so that we don't cause a lot of accidents along the way. Focus, and then you do what you focus onto with a lot of passion. Even if you're not paid for it, you're doing it. The other day I was having a conversation with some teachers in a top school here in Nairobi, and I asked a question. Excuse me, teachers, you're wonderful, you are great. I asked, why do you teach? In fact, 90% said, I teach because I need money at the end of it. It is only one teacher who said, I teach because of passion. And she went on to say, even if I'm not paid, I'll still teach. Why? Because money is not the goal. The satisfaction that you get out of the process is what actually makes you wake up every day. And when you do that, you'll have an impact. And when you have an impact, people will be able to identify with what you are doing. So passionately pursue your goal. And then at the end of the day, what happens? You'll be known because you are a brand. You'll be sought after. And money, as you keep on doing what you are doing, money is a reward that comes as a result of solving a problem. The more problems you solve, the more money you get.
But how do you get there? And especially for the youth, because we are living in a space where so many people consider their younger years to be years to make all these mistakes, and finding purpose and fulfillment is not something that so many young people are alive to in their younger ages. They say it comes with age. But is it possible to find your purpose and your calling at a younger age?
Very, very possible. Allow me to, let me also give an example with my daughter. My daughter had just turned 14 years, 1 month and a few days when she passed on during that accident. And give her anything, and she would create something out of it. One of the things that she used to do is to pick, you know, the lollipop sticks. She would cut them into pieces. And one time she actually made a bangle for my younger daughter, and it was a present. So you can be able to see that creativity. She was still she was a mentor when she was academic mentor. And she was, when we were having some decisions, some discussions in the house, she would put some brilliant suggestions. So it is very possible because she had already found her passion. She was aspiring to be a medical doctor. She was actually Googling to see which categories, you know, where do I fit here? And I'm good in this, I'm good in this. At 14, she already knew what she wanted in life. You can actually even get your purpose when you are 7 years, 9 years. Why? Because we normally say, when the tree is young, you can be able to bend it in a certain direction. But when somebody is 60 years and they try to bend it in a certain direction, then you just break. So you need to be molded. You need to know, what am I good at? Giftings and your talents actually are one of the key indicators of what your purpose is in life. Look at Eliud Kipchoge. When he was running the Ineos 159, he was not running against anyone. He was actually running against himself and against time. So you have to run against time and against yourself. You can achieve at 20 years what somebody has not achieved in 50 years. Why? Because we have already focused onto something and we are doing it with passion.
Age should not be a restriction to finding your true self.
Definitely.
And especially in line with bringing your resolutions to life. And now this brings me to the next aspect about strategizing for your year, putting a plan in place, and consequently seeing your resolutions come to life. Having a value system. This is something that we take so casually, and I am in that category. We, the young people, compromise so much on our values and our principles on the account of what can I get now?
It is not about getting now. If you jump the process, you'll not get a good fruit. You cannot plant a maize seed today, and expect to harvest tomorrow. There is always a process. Now, value system is what defines you, what sets you apart. We have just talked about being a brand, and not a commodity. What do people know you as? Now, on my book here, You're Not a Failure, I've said, my name is Reverend David Njeru, aka Mr. White. Why? Because there's a segment of the people who know me as Mr. White. Now, in my next book, I will have to omit the Mr. White so that it looks professional. Now, because I wanted to actually reach them. Now, this value system is what defines you. You can talk about excellence. Like for me, I don't stand mediocre. I don't stand something which is not excellent. I don't stand something which is not perfect.
The best version of itself.
The best that it can be. And then also that brings us also in, if we can go back a little bit on the balance again, you need to do like 4 things. Number 1, you need to do what we call rest. Rest, R-E-S-T. Now, that's an acronym. Now, R stands actually for resting. You need to take time and rest. When you rest, you'll be rejuvenated. You'll be revived. You'll find some more energy as you rest. That is number 1, R. And then E. What does E stand for? You need to explore as you do your value system. Who am I? Where have I come from? What do people know me as? So when you explore your weak points and their strong points, then you will front the weak point, the strong points, and then you work on the weak points. That is E. Then S, strategize. Strategize again, what we are doing is a strategy. Put strategies, put some things in order, put some short-term goals, long-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. And then you divide your day into hours, 24 hours. You divide that into minutes and then into seconds. By the end of the day, now, if somebody works for 16 hours and he sleeps for 8 hours, now, you cannot compare with that person who works for 8 hours and sleeps for 16 hours. All of us have used 24 hours, but how do you do about that? R, rest. E, explore. S, strategize. Then the last T is to train. Train yourself to be, to always going back and seeing where you have come from. Train yourself to honor what you have put down. I normally walk around with my diary, electronic and the analog one. Why? Because I need to put down something. I need to put a value. I need to be known as a person of integrity. Now, we normally, giving an example of politicians, without mentioning anyone here, most of them, what they normally say what they don't mean, and they mean what they don't say. So say what you mean and mean what you say.
Be a person of your word. But we say your word is your bond. Now, as we draw this conversation to a close, looking at principles and value system, what are those you would advise our viewers this morning when it comes to when you put down plans, and this cuts across any plans for the year that you may be having, any resolutions that you may be having, you need certain principles and values as your base of operation that you don't compromise on.
One of the values that stands at the forefront is actually what we have just said: be a man of your word. So when you say I'll be here at 7:30, you need to be here before that 7:30, because as we said earlier, is when you are in time, it is not on time, you are before time. Now, say this and honor what you have said. Then number 2, be reliable. Can you be relied? Now, most of the companies don't employ people because of their papers. They employ people because of what they can be able to offer as a team.
Yes.
Be reliable. Number 3, be available. How available are you when you are needed? If you have nothing to do for now, don't do it seated. You can be able to offer some free services somewhere, and you'll be gaining experience. Some people may say that I have no experience, but you need to offer those free services so that somebody can recommend you. I was in another station yesterday doing a recording, and the anchor asked me, do you mind if I refer you? And I said, no, I don't mind. Why is that? Because there is a substance that is found. Now, and then as we finalize on this, get what we call content. What do people know you for? Don't just stand and just say anything, but say something of value.
Be a person of value in essence. Don't just be known for everything. Let people know you. When they think about something, they can be able to know it's you.
Definitely.
Now, I have Sylvania who is asking, how can I get a copy of your book? I'd love to know more about what you have written. Is this available for people to be able to get, and how can they be able to do that?
Yeah, definitely the book is available, and we are not distributing through any of the bookshops. You can just write to me through the Facebook handle, that is David Njeru Pastor, or at Twitter at Njeru Pastor, or even YouTube, David Njeru, and then we can be able to ship this book to you across the nation or outside the nation, and that would be very, very, very good. And actually, if this book, I would want to print 1 million copies and distribute free of charge. If someone would be able to foot that bill, distribute it to primary school, secondary school, colleges, and even to young professionals. Why? Because it talks about purpose. It talks about how can you be able to leave a legacy. So it is a manual that can help each and every one of us.
All right. Now, as we close this conversation, there's this question here that you are free to respond or not to respond, but Macy is asking, I was listening in and you had mentioned about your daughter. How do you overcome grief? It is something that I'm struggling with. I don't know what you could advise.
Well, thank you so much for that question. And grief and loss is one of the hardest things to overcome. I've done a lot of counseling for people who have gone through grief and loss. And one of the things that you need to know is to have a lot of support system. You need to have a lot of people around you who will encourage you, who tells you that this is not the end of it. This is just a phase of life. For me to overcome that, one of the things that happened is that we had a lot of friends around us. Then after that, being a pastor, I'm exposed. Being a trainer, I'm exposed. But also during that time, I was also very weak. Why? That's a loss. I actually cried for a whole week. Tears every day. But of course, as much as that, we learned not to ask the question, why has she gone? Why is she among the 8 victims? But we are asking ourselves, what lessons are we learning from here? Wake up, dust yourself. There is a life to learn. There's a life to live. Now, if a tree is cut, there is hope for that tree to sprout again and even bear some fruits. So you can be shining when you have a scar. So let those scars of yours be shining medals.
All right, there you have it. I do trust that that will help you go through whatever you are going. We are sending you so much love from the Good Morning Kenya crew. And actually, at that particular point, we want to bring this conversation to a close. Remember, this has all been about strategy and mentoring in line with your New Year's resolutions and strategies. We do hope that from these conversations, you're able to borrow a thing or two and put to practice and consequently get to see your goals come to life. We have been speaking with Reverend David Njeru. He is an author, a professional counselor, as well as a leadership and a purpose trainer. Thank you so much, David. We appreciate you for making time. We wish you the absolute best as you continue on with your journey.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Hoping to come back again for a wonderful conversation.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And for everyone who's been watching, just seeing your retweets, we absolutely appreciate them. Brian, Bransil Love, we have Beyond, we have Kevin Muthomi, Kefas Roger. Thank you all so much for being part of this conversation. Owens Mambo Mosede, Amiani Senior. We anauliza ule jamaa wa People's Daily alienda wapi? Hakuna man's hapa. But do stay with us. We want to take a very quick break, but we are not done with Good Morning Kenya. More coming up after this break.